Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his forehead as he walked through the crowded halls of Kepler Station. The air recyclers were old and barely working, making everything smell like oil and burnt metal. Around him, dozens of alien species moved through the trading post, conducting business with loud voices and strange languages. The human commander stood out among the crowd, while the tall, elegant Altarians wore flowing robes that seemed to float around their blue-skinned bodies, and the mechanical Centaurians clicked across the floor on their metal legs. Jake wore simple work clothes that had seen better days. His brown hair was messy, and his hands showed the calluses of someone who fixed things with his own 2 hands. Another day, another credit, Jake muttered to himself as he made his way toward Docking Bay 7. His ship, the Frontier's Edge, waited there like an old friend. The cargo vessel wasn't much to look at compared to the sleek alien ships around it, but she had never let him down. Lisa Carter was already running pre-flight checks when Jake climbed aboard. The pilot looked up from her control panel, her blonde, hair tied back in a practical ponytail. "How did the trade meeting go?" she asked. "About as well as expected," Jake replied, dropping into his captain's chair. "The Altarians think our goods are too crude for their refined tastes. The Centaurians say our technology is 300 years behind theirs. Same old story." Ben Rodriguez emerged from the engine room, oil stains covering his work shirt. The engineer shook his head as he heard Jake's report. "One day they'll realize that crude and simple means it actually works when you need it to," he said with a slight accent that reminded everyone he had grown up in the Earth colonies. Amy Sullivan joined them on the bridge carrying her medical bag. The ship's doctor had just finished treating a minor injury for one of the dock workers. Her red hair caught the light from the control panels as she settled into her seat. "At least we got the supplies we needed," she said. "And that new medicine will help the colony on Rigel Prime." Jake nodded and was about to give the order to launch when an alarm sounded through the station. The lights changed from white to red, and a voice spoke over the communication system in Standard Galactic. "Attention all station personnel. A contamination alert has been issued for Section 12. All beings are advised to avoid the waste disposal area until further notice." The crew looked at each other with confusion. Contamination alerts were rare on Kepler Station. The place was run with military precision by the Galactic Commerce Council. "That's strange," Lisa said, checking her instruments. "Section 12 is right next to our docking bay. What kind of contamination?" Before anyone could answer, a second announcement came through the speakers. This time, the voice belonged to Station Administrator Veltar, an Altarian whose authority was respected throughout the sector. "The contamination involves a biological hazard from the quarantined Cathara colonies. All personnel are ordered to maintain distance and report any contact immediately." Jake felt his stomach tighten. The Cathara were a peaceful species known for their beautiful crystalline skin and telepathic abilities. He had heard rumors about some kind of radiation exposure that had affected their outer colonies, but the details were always vague. "Captain," Amy said quietly, "if there's a Kithra in the waste disposal area, they might need medical help." "The station authorities can handle it," Ben said firmly. "We don't need that kind of trouble." But Jake was already standing up. Something about the situation felt wrong. Why would a Cathara be in the waste disposal area? And why hadn't the station security already handled the situation? "I'm going to take a look," he said, ignoring Ben's protest. The waste disposal section of Kepler Station was exactly as unpleasant as it sounded. The air was thick with the smell of garbage and recycled waste. Emergency lights cast long shadows between the massive sorting machines and conveyor belts. Jake moved carefully through the area, his hand resting on the small sidearm all ship captains were allowed to carry. The place seemed empty except for the constant noise of machinery. Then he heard it. A soft whimpering sound like someone trying not to cry. Following the sound, Jake found himself at the edge of a large waste container. Inside, huddled among discarded food packages and broken equipment, was a small figure. It was a Cathara child, probably no more than 12 years old by human standards. Her crystalline skin, which should have been shimmering with beautiful colors, was dark purple and black, the colors of fear and pain. Her clothes were torn and dirty, and Jake could see several untreated wounds on her arms and legs. The girl looked up at him with large, frightened eyes. When she saw his human face, she tried to press herself further back into the container. "It's okay," Jake said softly, holding up his hands to show he meant no harm. "I'm not going to hurt you." The child said something in her own language, then switched to broken Standard Galactic. "Please, and no hurt. I hide good. I quiet." Jake's heart broke at the fear in her voice. This wasn't a contamination hazard. This was a scared, injured child who had been abandoned and left to die. "What's your name?" he asked gently. "Zara," she whispered. "I am Zara, but I sick, I make trouble. Please no tell the metal people, they say I go away forever." Jake understood immediately. The metal people were the Centaurians, and going away forever meant being sent to a quarantine facility where she would never be seen again. "How long have you been here, Zara?" "Many suns," she said, which could mean anything from days to weeks. "I eat the thrown-away food, I drink the water from the cleaning pipes, but I get more sick." Jake made his decision. "Come with me, Zara. I'm going to help you." The girl stared at him with disbelief. "You human. The tall blue people say humans are savage. They say humans are stupid and dangerous." "Maybe we are," Jake said with a small smile. "But we don't leave children to die in garbage containers." He held out his hand, and after a long moment of hesitation, Zara reached out and took it. Her crystalline skin was hot with fever, and Jake could feel how thin she had become. As they made their way back to the ship, Jake knew he was about to cause more trouble than his crew had ever faced. But looking down at the frightened child who trusted him enough to follow, he also knew he had no choice. Some things were more important than staying out of trouble. Some things were worth being called savage for. Jake helped Zara climb aboard the Frontier's Edge, her small hand shaking in his. The moment they stepped onto the ship, Amy rushed forward with her medical scanner already in hand. "My God," Amy whispered as she looked at the readings. "She's severely malnourished and dehydrated. These wounds are infected, and her fever is dangerous." Lisa appeared in the doorway, took one look at Zara, and immediately understood the situation. "Captain, are you sure about this?" Before Jake could answer, Ben emerged from the engine room and stopped dead when he saw their new passenger. His face went pale, then red with anger. "Are you insane?" Ben shouted. "Do you know what you've done? That's a contaminated Kithara. The station authorities will shut us down. We'll lose our trading licenses. We'll be banned from every decent port in the galaxy." Zara pressed herself against Jake's side, her crystalline skin turning darker purple at Ben's harsh words. She understood enough Standard Galactic to know she wasn't wanted. "She's just a child," Amy said firmly, kneeling down to Zara's level. "Look at her, Ben. She's starving and sick. We can't just leave her." "Watch me," Ben snapped. "Jake, I've followed you through asteroid fields and pirate attacks, but this is where I draw the line. That kid is a walking disaster for our crew." Jake felt Zara's grip tighten on his jacket. The girl was trying to make herself smaller, as if she could disappear entirely. Her large eyes darted between the arguing humans, and Jake could see she was ready to run. "We're not abandoning her," Jake said quietly, but his voice carried the authority of a ship's captain. "End of discussion." Ben threw his hands up in frustration. "Fine. But when we're all rotting in some Centaurian prison, don't say I didn't warn you." Amy was already leading Zara toward the medical bay. "Come on, sweetheart, let's get you cleaned up and fed." As Amy worked on treating Zara's injuries, Jake began the process of requesting departure clearance from station control. What should have been a routine procedure quickly became a nightmare. "Frontier's Edge, this is station control," came the cold voice of a Centaurian officer. "We show an unauthorized life sign aboard your vessel. Please explain." Jake took a deep breath. "Station control, we have taken aboard a refugee in need of medical assistance." There was a long pause, then, "Frontier's Edge, you are ordered to return to your docking bay immediately. The individual you have taken is classified as a biological hazard and must be transferred to proper containment." "Negative, station control." The individual is a minor child requiring medical care. Frontier's Edge, you are in violation of Regulation 7341 regarding contaminated biological specimens. Return to dock immediately or face serious consequences. Jake cut the communication and turned to Lisa. How fast can you get us out of here? Lisa's fingers flew over the controls. Give me 2 minutes to clear the docking clamps. An alarm began sounding throughout the station. Red lights flashed and security announcements echoed through the corridors. Jake watched through the viewports as Centaurian security forces began moving toward their docking bay. 1 minute, Lisa called out. In the medical bay, Amy was helping Zara eat small spoonfuls of nutrient broth. The child's skin had shifted to a slightly lighter shade of purple, but she still looked terrified. Why you help me? Zara asked in her broken standard galactic. Other people say I dangerous. Say I make them sick too. Amy smiled gently. Because that's what people do. We help each other. Not other people, Zara said sadly. The tall blue people say I go away. The metal people say I broken. Even my own people afraid of me now. Well, you're with humans now, Amy said. And we're too stubborn to abandon anyone. Meanwhile, on the bridge, Jake was receiving increasingly threatening messages from station security. Administrator Veltar himself came on the communication channel. Commander Morrison, the Altarian's melodic voice carried clear disapproval. You are making a grave error. That creature carries genetic contamination that could spread to other species. The Galactic Commerce Council has strict protocols for handling such cases. She's not a creature, Jake replied firmly. She's a child. Your emotional thinking clouds your judgment, Veltar said. This is precisely why humans are considered unsuitable for positions of authority. You allow primitive feelings to override logical decisions. Maybe so, Jake said, but at least we don't throw children away like garbage. 30 seconds, Lisa announced. Jake could see Centaurian security officers running across the docking bay toward their ship. Several of them carried restraint weapons, designed to subdue dangerous criminals. The child will be properly cared for in a quarantine facility, Veltar continued. She will receive adequate nutrition and medical treatment until her natural death. This is far more merciful than allowing her to spread contamination. Natural death? Jake's voice rose in anger. She's 12 years old. Her species has been exposed to tau radiation. They are no longer viable as a race. The merciful thing is to allow them to fade peacefully without creating additional suffering. You're talking about genocide. I am talking about practical management of a galactic health crisis, Veltar replied coldly. Your refusal to cooperate will be noted in your permanent record. Launching now, Lisa called out. The Frontier's Edge broke free from the docking clamps just as the Centaurian security team reached their bay. Jake watched through the rear monitors as the station fell away behind them. But their troubles were just beginning. Within minutes, they received a priority transmission from the Centaurian Naval Command. Human vessel Frontier's Edge, you have committed a serious violation of galactic law. The enforcement vessel Stellar Authority is being dispatched to intercept you. You will surrender the contaminated individual and face judgment for your crimes. Jake looked at his crew. Lisa's hands were steady on the controls, but he could see the worry in her eyes. Amy had joined them on the bridge, leaving Zara sleeping in the medical bay under mild sedation. So what's it going to be? Jake asked. We can still turn back. Drop Zara off at the nearest Centaurian facility and pretend this never happened. Ben was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he spoke. That kid asked me to look at her toy while Amy was treating her. It's some kind of electronic puzzle broken and held together with scrap wire. But when I touched it, it started working again. She smiled at me like I'd given her the whole galaxy. He looked up at Jake with tired eyes. I still think you're crazy, Captain, but I'm not handing a kid over to die in some alien prison. Lisa nodded. I'm with you, Jake. Besides, I've always wanted to see how fast this old ship could really go. Amy crossed her arms. That child has been through enough. Hell, if the Centaurians want her, they'll have to go through us first. Jake felt a surge of pride in his crew. They might not be the most advanced beings in the galaxy, but they knew right from wrong. Then it's settled, he said. Plot a course for the Outer Rim. Let's see if we can outrun the most advanced navy in known space. As the Frontier's Edge jumped to hyperspace, Jake wondered if they were heroes or fools. But watching Zara sleep peacefully for the first time in months, he decided it didn't matter. Some things were worth the risk. The Frontier's Edge dropped out of hyperspace near a small fuel depot on the edge of vegan space. Jake hoped they could refuel quickly and continue their journey to the Outer Rim colonies. But as soon as they approached the station, automated, warning signals began flashing across their control panels. Quarantine protocols activated, announced the station's computer system. Vessel Frontier's Edge flagged for biological contamination. Entry denied. Lisa cursed under her breath. They've already updated the databases. Every major station in 3 sectors will have our ship flagged. Jake stared at the fuel depot through the viewports. It was a small, privately owned station that usually welcomed anyone with credits to spend. Now even they were turning the humans away. Plot a course for the Kepler Belt mining stations, Jake ordered. Maybe the independent operators won't care about galactic health codes. 6 hours later, they tried again at a rough mining station that catered to smugglers and pirates. The same result. The moment their ship identification transmitted, the station's defenses powered up and ordered them to leave immediately. "Captain," Amy called from the medical bay. "You need to see this." Jake found Amy checking Zara's vital signs while the young Cathera sat cross-legged on the medical bed. The child's crystalline skin had changed from the dark purple of fear to a lighter shade with streaks of blue and green. "Her fever broke this morning," Amy reported. "But that's not the unusual part. Watch this." Amy held up her medical scanner, and before she could activate it, the device began displaying readings on its own. Zara's eyes were closed, but her forehead was creased in concentration. "She's interfacing with the scanner telepathically," Amy explained. "I've never seen anything like it. The radiation exposure didn't weaken her abilities, it made them stronger." Zara opened her eyes and looked directly at Jake. "Ship is sick too," she said in her improving standard galactic. "Left engine make. Wrong sound. Power flow not good." Ben appeared in the doorway, wiping grease from his hands. "She's right. I've been chasing a power fluctuation for days." "How did she know?" "I feel it," Zara said simply. "Ship talks to me. Says it tired but wants to help." Over the next few days, as they continued their journey through increasingly remote space, Zara's unique abilities became more apparent. She could sense mechanical problems before they became critical failures. She helped Lisa navigate through asteroid fields by predicting the movement of floating rocks. She even improved their communication system by somehow boosting the signal strength through pure telepathic energy. But their most pressing problem remained the Centaurian enforcement vessel pursuing them. Captain Korthak of the Stellar Authority had been tracking them for 3 days, slowly gaining ground with his ship's superior speed and technology. "He's persistent," Lisa observed, as she monitored their pursuer's position. Most Centaurian officers would have given up by now. Jake studied the tactical display. This one's different. He's not just following orders, this is personal for him. As if summoned by their conversation, an incoming transmission arrived from the Stellar Authority. Captain Korthak's mechanical face appeared on the main screen, his red optical sensors glowing with cold determination. "Human vessel, you have led us on a pointless chase for 72 hours. Your actions demonstrate the chaos and irrationality that plague your species. Surrender the contaminated specimen immediately." "Her name is Zara," Jake replied. "She's a child, not a specimen." "Emotional attachments to inferior life forms are a weakness," Korthak stated. "Your species lacks the discipline necessary for galactic civilization. You allow feelings to override logic at every opportunity." "Maybe that's true," Jake admitted. "But our feelings tell us not to abandon children to die alone." "The Cathera child will die regardless," Korthak said matter-of-factly. "The radiation exposure has made her genetically unstable. Her lifespan is now measured in months, not years. Your interference only prolongs her suffering." Zara, who had been listening from the medical bay through the ship's internal communication system, suddenly appeared on the bridge. Her skin was now showing bright streaks of gold and silver, colors that Amy had never seen before. "I not die soon," Zara said, looking directly at the Centaurian captain's image. "Radiation make me different, not broken. I feel things others cannot feel. I help where others cannot help." Korthak's optical sensors focused on the child. "Impossible. Our scans show cellular degradation consistent with terminal radiation. Poisoning. Your scan's wrong," Zara replied calmly. "My people change. We become something new, but you too afraid to let us try." The communication ended abruptly as Korthak cut the transmission. But the chase continued, and the Stellar Authority was still gaining ground. "He'll catch us before we reach the outer colonies," Lisa reported. "His ship is just too fast." "Then we need to stop running and start thinking," Jake said. "Ben, what do we have for weapons?" "Two small pulse cannons that couldn't scratch the wime. Paint on a Centaurian warship," Ben replied glumly. "What about the asteroid field we passed 3 hours ago?" Amy suggested. "Could we use that somehow?" Jake looked at the navigation charts. "It's risky. One wrong move and we'll be smashed to pieces." "I help," Zara said quietly. "I feel the rocks. They tell me where they go." "That's insane," Ben protested. "You're asking us to trust our lives to a kid who talks to asteroids." "I trust her," Jake said firmly. "Lisa, turn us around. We're going back to the asteroid field." The next hour was the most terrifying experience of Jake's life. The frontier's edge weaved through the massive floating rocks at dangerous speeds, with Zara sitting on the bridge providing constant guidance. "Left, now down, now forward fast," she called out, her eyes closed in concentration. "Big rock coming. From right side. Wait, now turn hard left." Lisa's hands flew over the controls, following Zara's directions with split-second timing. Behind them, the Stellar Authority was trying to follow, but Korthak's larger ship couldn't match their maneuverability. "There," Zara said, pointing to a cluster of particularly large asteroids. "We hide in there. Metal ship too big to follow." The frontier's edge slipped between two house-sized rocks and powered down all non-essential systems. They drifted silently as the Stellar Authority searched the asteroid field, its powerful sensors sweeping back and forth. For 6 hours, they waited in the darkness while Korthak's ship hunted for them. Finally, the Centaurian vessel gave up and headed back toward civilized space. "We did it," Lisa whispered, hardly believing they had escaped. "No," Jake said, watching the Stellar Authority disappear on their sensors. "We just bought ourselves. Sometime. Korthak will be back, and next time he'll bring help." But as Jake looked at Zara, whose skin was now showing patterns of bright blue and gold, he felt something he hadn't experienced in years. Hope. The child had not only survived abandonment and radiation poisoning, she was becoming something extraordinary. "Where we go now?" Zara asked. "Somewhere safe," Jake promised. "Somewhere people won't abandon you ever again." The frontier's edge limped into orbit around Haven's Rest after 2 days of hard travel. The small human colony sat on a rocky planet at the edge of explored space, far from the major trade routes and galactic authority. It was exactly the kind of place where people went when they wanted to be left alone. Jake hailed the colony's communication center as they approached the landing field. A weathered face appeared on the screen, belonging to a man in his 50s with gray hair and kind eyes. "This is Mayor Carl Thompson," the man said. "Welcome to Haven's Rest. What brings you to our little corner of nowhere?" "We need fuel and supplies," Jake replied carefully. "And maybe a place to lay low for a while." Carl's expression didn't change, but Jake could see the man's eyes taking in the details of their ship's condition. The frontier's edge showed clear signs of being pursued and having traveled through dangerous space. "Well, we've got both fuel and supplies," Carl said. "As for laying low, that's what most folks come here for. Bring her down to landing pad 3. As they descended through the atmosphere, Jake could see Haven's Rest spread out below them. It wasn't much to look at compared to the gleaming cities on core worlds. Simple buildings made from local materials dotted the landscape, connected by dirt roads and practical walkways. But there was something peaceful about the place that reminded Jake of old Earth settlements. Dr. Susan Thompson, Carl's wife, met them at the landing pad along with several curious colonists. She was a small woman with graying brown hair and the confident manner of someone used to dealing with medical emergencies on the frontier. "Carl told me you might have someone needing medical attention," she said, carrying a well-used medical bag. Amy emerged from the ship with Zara at her side. The young Kythera stayed close to Amy, her crystalline skin showing nervous purple streaks as she looked at all the unfamiliar faces. The colonists stared in surprise. Most of them had never seen a Kythera before, and certainly not one so young. But their expressions showed curiosity rather than fear or disgust. "Well, hello there," Dr. Thompson said gently, kneeling down to Zara's level. "What's your name, sweetheart?" "I am Zara," the child replied in her much-improved Standard Galactic. "These humans help me when no one else would." Carl Thompson listened as Jake explained their situation. The mayor's face grew serious as he heard about the pursuit and the galactic community's treatment of Zara's people. "So, let me understand. This," Carl said when Jake finished. "The Centaurians want to take this child to a quarantine facility where she'll die, and they're willing to destroy anyone who gets in their way?" "That's about the size of it," Jake confirmed. Carl looked around at the dozen colonists who had gathered to hear the story. "What do you all think?" "I think it's wrong to abandon children," said Rachel Davis, a tough-looking woman who ran the colony's engineering department. "Doesn't matter what species they are." "The girl seems harmless enough," added Steve Parker, who organized the local militia. "If the Centaurians want her, they can explain why to us first." One by one, the colonists voiced their support. These were people who had chosen to live on the frontier because they valued freedom and independence above comfort and safety. The idea of a powerful military force bullying a child didn't sit well with any of them. Then it settled. Carl said, "Zara, welcome to Haven's Rest. You're under our protection now." For the first time since Jake had found her, Zara's skin showed pure, bright colors. Gold and silver patterns swirled across her crystalline surface, and she actually smiled. Their peaceful moment was interrupted by proximity alarms from the frontier's edge. Lisa ran out of the ship, her face pale with worry. "Captain, we've got company. 3 Centaurian warships just dropped out of hyperspace. They're demanding immediate surrender of our passenger." Jake looked up at the sky, knowing that somewhere above them, Captain Korthak was preparing for what he thought would be an easy victory. The Centaurian commander had no idea what he was about to face. Carl Thompson walked over to the colony's communication array and opened a channel to the Centaurian fleet. "This is Mayor Thompson of Haven's Rest Colony. You are not welcome in our space. Leave immediately." Korthak's mechanical voice came through the speakers with cold authority. "Human colony, you are harboring a dangerous biological hazard. Surrender the contaminated Kythera immediately or face the consequences." "The only thing dangerous here is you threatening a child," Carl replied firmly. "Zara is under the protection of this colony. If you want her, you'll have to go through us. Your primitive weapons cannot stand against Centaurian military technology," Korthak stated. "You have 1 hour to comply or we will take the specimen by force." The communication ended, and Carl turned to face his fellow colonists. "You all heard that. Anyone who wants to leave can take the evacuation shuttles to the caves in the southern mountains. No one will think less of you." Not a single person moved toward the shuttles. "All right then," Carl said with a grim smile. "Steve, get the militia ready. Rachel, I need you to prep all our mining equipment for combat use. Everyone else, you know what to do." Jake watched in amazement as the small colony transformed into a fortress. Mining lasers were repositioned to serve as defensive weapons. Excavation equipment was moved to create barriers and fighting positions. The colonists worked with the efficiency of people who had faced danger before and survived. Zara stood beside Jake, watching the preparations with wide eyes. "They fight for me?" she asked. "They're fighting for what's right," Jake explained. "That's what humans do. Even when they might lose, especially then." As the hour deadline approached, Steve Parker's militia took their positions around the colony. They were armed with hunting rifles and mining tools, facing 3 advanced warships with enough firepower to level the entire settlement. "This is insane," Ben muttered as he helped position a mining laser. "We're going to get slaughtered." "Maybe," Amy replied, checking her medical supplies. "But at least we'll go down fighting for something worthwhile." High above them, the Centaurian warships began their descent. Captain Korthak had decided that a show of overwhelming force would end the resistance quickly and efficiently. He was about to learn that humans didn't respond to overwhelming force the way most species did. Instead of surrendering, they got angry. Zara placed her small hand in Jake's and looked up at him with trust that broke his heart. "I'm not afraid anymore," she said. "My family here now." As the first Centaurian ship entered the atmosphere, every human in Haven's Rest colony prepared to prove that sometimes being called savage was the highest compliment you could receive. The first Centaurian warship descended through Haven's Rest atmosphere like a metal mountain falling from the sky. Its weapons powered up with an ominous hum that made the ground vibrate beneath the colonists' feet. "Remember," Steve Parker called, out to his militia over their communication system, "aim for the engine ports and weapon mounts. Don't waste shots on the main hull." Captain Korthak's voice boomed across the colony from the warship's external speakers. "Humans of Haven's Rest, you have 30 seconds to surrender the contaminated specimen. This is your final warning." Carl Thompson stood in the center of the colony square, looking up at the massive ship hovering above them. "Zara," he called. "Out. Would you like to answer that yourself?" The young Cathera stepped forward, her crystalline skin glowing with bright gold and blue patterns. When she spoke, her voice carried clearly across the colony, somehow amplified by her telepathic abilities. "I am not contaminated. I am not specimen. I am Zara. And these are my family now. You want me? You fight them first." Korthak's response was immediate. Energy beams lanced down from the warship, targeting the colony's defensive positions. But the humans were ready. Mining lasers fired back, their industrial-strength beams designed to cut through solid rock. While they couldn't penetrate the Centaurian ship's main armor, they found the smaller target Steve had identified. Sparks flew as one of the warship's weapon mounts exploded. "Direct hit on their port cannon," Rachel Davis reported from her position behind a converted excavator. "Their shields are designed to stop military weapons, not mining equipment." The battle quickly became chaotic. The Centaurians had superior technology and firepower, but the humans used every advantage they could find. They knew the terrain, they had cover, and most importantly, they were fighting for something they believed in. Zara stood beside Jake near the communication array, her eyes closed in deep concentration. "More ships coming," she announced suddenly. Many ships, but not metal people ships. Jake looked up at the sky and saw new contacts appearing on their sensors. His heart sank, thinking reinforcements had arrived for the Centaurians. But as the ships drew closer, he realized they were human. Vessels of all shapes and sizes. "This is Captain Mike Turner of the merchant vessel New Horizons," came a familiar voice over the communication channel. "Heard you folks might need some help down there." Jake recognized the name. Turner was a legendary figure in human space, a trader and explorer who had been flying the Outer Rim for 30 years. Behind him came a ragtag fleet of cargo ships, mining vessels, colony transports, and even a few converted passenger liners. "How did you know?" Jake asked. "Word gets around. Fast in human space," Turner replied. "Story about a crew willing to fight the entire Centaurian Navy to protect a kid tends to spread pretty quick. Figured you could use some backup." The arrival of the human fleet changed everything. While none of the individual ships could match a Centaurian warship in combat, together they presented a serious threat. More importantly, they brought something the Centaurians hadn't expected: witnesses. "This is now a galactic incident," Turner announced on all frequencies. "I'm transmitting live feeds to every news network in known space. The whole galaxy is watching to see how the mighty Centaurian Empire handles a bunch of humans protecting a child." Captain Korthak found himself in an impossible situation. He could still win the battle, but doing so would mean slaughtering dozens of human civilians in front of the entire galaxy. The Centaurian government prided itself on being civilized and lawful. Butchering colonists to capture one sick child would destroy their reputation. All Centaurian vessels, this is Admiral Velkarn of the Centaurian High Command, came a new voice over the communication channels. You are ordered to withdraw immediately. This operation is terminated. Admiral, the contaminated specimen is still at large, Korthak protested. The specimen is no longer your concern, Captain. Return to base for debriefing. As the Centaurian warships retreated, cheers erupted across Haven's Rest colony. The humans had done the impossible. They had faced down the most advanced military in the galaxy and won. But Jake knew the real victory was happening right beside him. Zara's crystalline skin was showing colors he had never seen before. Brilliant rainbow patterns swirled across her surface, and when she smiled, her whole body seemed to glow with inner light. I am home, she said simply. Over the following weeks, Haven's Rest became famous throughout human space. Refugees from a dozen different species began arriving, all seeking the same thing Zara had found: acceptance and a chance at a new life. The young Cathara thrived in her new environment. Her telepathic abilities helped the colonists improve their technology and communication systems. She could predict weather patterns, locate mineral deposits, and even help solve mechanical problems by interfacing directly with electronic systems. But more than her abilities, it was her spirit that inspired everyone around her. The frightened, abandoned child Jake had found in a garbage container had become a confident, happy young person who brought joy to everyone she met. Dr. Susan Thompson conducted regular medical examinations and made a remarkable discovery. The radiation exposure that the galactic community had feared was actually causing beneficial mutations in Zara's species. Instead of dying, they were evolving into something new and extraordinary. We should contact the other Cathara survivors, Amy suggested during one of their medical conferences. If Zara is any indication, they're not dying at all. They're becoming something amazing. Already working on it, Jake replied. Turner's people have located 3 other refugee groups. We're bringing them here. Months later, Haven's Rest had grown into a thriving community of multiple species. The Cathara refugees had indeed survived their radiation exposure, developing enhanced telepathic abilities and crystalline skin that could change colors to express complex emotions. Other species began questioning the galactic community's treatment of refugees and outcasts. Some Altarians and even a few Centaurians quietly visited Haven's Rest, curious about this human experiment in radical acceptance. Jake stood on the colony's observation deck, watching Zara teach a group of human children how to sense the emotional states of plants in the colony's garden. Her skin showed gentle waves of green and gold as she patiently explained how every living thing had its own unique energy signature. No regrets? Amy asked, joining him at the railing. Jake thought about everything they had been through. The battles, the chase, the moment when they could have died fighting impossible odds. Then he looked at Zara, surrounded by friends and family, her whole being radiating happiness and hope. Not one, he said. The galaxy might still consider humans to be savage and primitive. But Jake had learned something important during their journey. Sometimes being savage meant being the only one civilized enough to help those in need. Sometimes being primitive meant remembering that compassion was more important than technology. And sometimes being human meant being willing to fight for what was right, no matter the odds. Zara looked up and waved at them, her crystalline skin sparkling in the afternoon sun. She had found her family among the stars, and they had found something just as precious in return. Proof that doing the right thing was always worth the cost.